So lately there's been a lot of discussion around the topic of changes, updates hopeful to come, and things of that nature alike. If I were to guess, the next time that we see some changes coming is that of this upcoming week with the launch of Season 1 for Modern Warfare. So naturally, with a large content drop coming already planned, we can expect another title update to be making its way to the game very shortly, something you'll have to take your time to download, and if you're on PlayStation 4, even longer to copy once it is downloaded. But on top of that content, what else can we expect to see changing with said update? Today I want to break down 11 things on the radar and acknowledged by developers, and some things also looking past that to be coming at a future date, possibly with the next update, but likely not. And lastly, I do want to cover my 2 cents here on the whole developer interview with Joe Secott that's come to light as well in recent days, and just talk about all things changes and state of Modern Warfare in this one. So that said, I wonder what changes you'd like to see in Modern Warfare, and if it were up to you, what you would change. And as well, if you're new, do be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. But anyways, let's jump into it. A lot of what we're going to discuss is going to be technical fixes, and with more and more content coming into the wild, we're likely going to see even more coming shortly thereafter this update. For now, this is what we know of what's on the docket. Nothing overhaul worthy, if you want to call it that, but changes that can still make a difference to the player. Firstly, let's talk about some challenges. There's going to be one specific change for the launchers, that being something that is honestly a really tough one if you're on that road to platinum with launchers, or if you're on that road to Damascus overall. But if you end up taking a look at some of the challenges for your rocket launchers, you'll end up seeing that you have to kill 75 ground-based kill streaks. Now, truth be told, there's not a whole lot of circumstances where you may encounter those kill streaks. Things like the Wilson, I can only tell you I've encountered Wilsons maybe like under a dozen times since Modern Warfare's launched. Maybe I've gotten lucky, maybe I've dodged a bullet, but it's something that I don't encounter those ground-based streaks all that much. And same thing also with like shield turrets, I guess that counts as well. I just don't find the ground-based streaks near as much and near as often as you may think. Now, this is something that players seem to have that same issue where it's not as common as you may think, and so therefore this was also mentioned by Joe Secott to be being fixed out really soon here, and which is going to count towards ground vehicles in an upcoming update. So I'm assuming that counts for all ground-based vehicles within, say, ground war, where you have tanks, you have your APCs, you have your quads, you have your SUVs, you have your tactical rovers, and things like those, where you end up destroying those. And probably when they're occupied, I doubt that you'll be able to count towards those when they are idle and when you just don't have anybody in them. But whenever you end up disabling them and destroying them, that should, in this upcoming update, fix out what will actually count towards that challenge, so making the challenges for the launchers a little bit easier. After that, coming again in another challenge for camos and such, one big problem with the Damascus grind is that the 357 has been giving a ton of users issues with it, in which I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the ones that is the final obstacle in players getting Damascus, where kills just aren't tracking with a 357. This was labeled as a fix coming very soon here for this, so again, it should be something that in the upcoming update allows players to finally get Damascus, and they're tracking this stuff on the back end, and hopefully this is the one that finally lets players get it. There's been a lot of bugs with challenges and camos in particular, and that actually leads me into the third thing, is the fact that overall challenge tracking consistency should have some updates and fixes here with this next update as well. Missions and officers, I think if I'm not mistaken, officers actually are good to go at this point, but mission challenges still have some things that are bugged about with them, and same thing goes for those camo challenges like we just mentioned with these last two. Just some updates and fixes to either make them a little easier or to make them more accessible, or even just work at all. So that's something that you should be able to expect with this upcoming update, again, probably presumably on Tuesday. But then moving along a little further, one thing that's been a bug that players have been noticing is that the streak volume consistency is a little off. Things like your precision airstrike, things like your VTOL are a lot louder when called in than other things in the game. And so therefore that's just a little technical bug that again doesn't really bother too many people, but if you do have your headsets blasted or something like that, or you're trying to use that headset to your advantage, it can be something that in some circumstances could blow out your ears. But that naturally isn't something that they want to happen and should be being fixed out as well. Additionally, some things coming back to it come down to the riot shield adjustment. There's been a couple of adjustments already to the riot shield, but the one thing that players still aren't necessarily happy about is that of the explosive sticks. Currently, if you stick somebody with a riot shield with an explosive, it doesn't do anything, but this should be seemingly securing the kill after said adjustment is made in the very near future here with this. Then another adjustment is that of an adjustment coming to Field Upgrade Pro. Right now, it seemingly is a bug. I can't imagine this was intended, but if you end up activating Field Upgrade Pro, which for those of you guys that don't know, once you've reached, I forget what level it is in your enlisted ranks, you have the option to actually take 2 field upgrades, and then you can choose on the fly in game which one you want to use of those 2. But a bug persisted as of recently where if you chose one or the other, it would either throw or place your lethal and or tactical depending on which one you chose, all while activating also at the same time. So for theory's sake, one thing that would cancel this out is that if you activated the ammo box, obviously you're not going to throw a tactical and in the same animation put down your ammo box, but one thing that I personally came in contact with a lot was activating, say, I think it was Dead Silence, in which whenever I activated it, because it was a passive ability, it wasn't something that my character had to actually do an animation for. It was something that it also placed a claymore whenever I had that equipped. It threw a grenade. It did something of the like as well on top of activating it, which naturally you don't want to do. If you end up having a grenade that goes hot once you toss it, and if you aren't aware of it, you throw it without really ever canceling it, although you can't cancel a frag, but you get the picture. After that, one thing that looks to be fixed out is the spawn while leaning bug. This is something that I've seen a little bit of, and it only recently happened to me one time as the first time it happened. I have absolutely no idea how to reproduce this or how it happens in game naturally, but it is something that will pop up every so often, and truth be told, it looks pretty funny. But whenever you look at it, your character model when the enemy is looking at you is upright and as normal, but when you are looking at it, your view model is actually tilted to the side as if you were mounted. So this should have a fix inbound with the next update. It's more so just an inconvenient bug. It's not anything that really breaks the game or anything. Just kind of annoying, and you have to tilt your head to meet up with how the view models line up, but that's something that will be coming as well. After that, the second to last update that we'll see here that we know of that's on deck is that of the Always Sprint feature. Now, this was mentioned in the last title update or the last update notes that we had here with this, in which it was said to be a new feature that would allow you to do what it says, always run. You don't have to crush your sprint button to end up jumping into it and then having to always run. You just had it naturally on. But it didn't come. Nobody could really find it, and this was something that perplexed the community for a little bit until a little bit after that update went live, to which the patch notes were actually edited to let the players know that this was announced a little too quickly and it didn't actually make it into that update. So it was said at first to be in the update, but it didn't actually come. So that's something that will actually be coming with this next update as well. So that'll finally be there, just got announced a little too quickly. And then the final thing we'll talk about is a bug that is going to be hopefully taken care of. This is, again, rounding out this list, but teetering on the edge of it may be coming and it may not be, just because they're still trying to reproduce it in-house. But that being where there's a launch bug which will take you through a window and launch you up above the map on Shoot House. So you're pretty much flying. You can't really be taken out unless a player looks dead up in the sky, and how many times does the player really do that? But that said, that should be fixed out as well. In the coming future, though, it has been mentioned that there may be a Battle-Hardened buff coming at some point. We don't know exactly what that may entail. It has had some discussion where even developers said that it really wasn't working as intended as compared to recent Call of Duty titles with the same effects of Battle-Hardened. And then later on in the far future, maybe, or maybe not so far future, but not in the immediate horizon, there may be a spectator mode coming for 2v2 tournaments. So if you end up getting knocked out in that first or second round, you can follow through to the finals or semifinals or anything you may be seeing, and where you can watch your competition and some good matches if you want to. Now, there's been quite a lot of talk about the interview, or rather group discussion with Joe Seacott from our DLC event. About 7 or so of us huddled around the kitchen of Infinite Warfare earlier in the week, and a lot of talk about things like skill-based matchmaking, the UAV, Dead Silence, Ghost, and things like that. Now, trust me, I can almost bet that I feel the same way as a lot of you guys, but I just want to add my 2 cents here because there was key perspective left out from what the community was given, where even though I don't agree with the design philosophy and what was said about some of the stuff not being changed or a lack thereof of changes coming, there's still some context that's missing that likely won't change your minds. But as a person who believes in facts first so that you can form your own educated opinions, I feel like you should know that context and those explanations for some of the non-changes. Totally honest, yes, I think some of the design intent is 100% stupid. Personally, I didn't see any reason to change things like the minimap, like Dead Silence and stuff like that, but that was their design intent. Some of that stuff just isn't gonna change. Some of it, though, they're well aware that it was a mistake when they see it out in the wild. For example, the perk selection loadouts. Ghost, while always being a hard counter to UAVs and such in Infinity Ward games, they realized that the tier 2 perks really don't have a hard counter to Ghost, that it's a crunch perk in a sense, or a why wouldn't I take this type of perk. They realize that, and it's not as simple as the community thinks to fix. It's not just a case of, well, the community wants this, screw that idea. They realize there's not a hard counter to it, but the common misconception is that it's a simple copy one perk from a tier 1, paste it in a tier 2 or something like that. But the reality is that you have to reevaluate millions of players' data, shift and redistribute those values at a best case scenario, and at worst delete them and start fresh, then move the perks where you want them by adjusting every single corresponding asset in the game code, tethered to not only just the perk but also the perk's initial tier, and then hope to God that not a single asset in the game files were shifted where it wasn't meant to be, because it will literally topple the whole tower and break the entire game. And so I get the frustration. I sure as hell didn't know that it was that deep, and so I'd wager the mass populace doesn't either. But it's not a case of, well, the community wants this but we don't, so screw their ideas. Some stuff, absolutely, it's a valid question of why won't they change it. But some of the aforementioned stuff is literally them saying, well, shit, we should change that. And if we can, let's try, but without breaking our game indefinitely in the process. Those changes, if they were to be coming, take a little longer than that of what we've seen since even launch, let alone the fact that they have to gather the feedback and the data from not only statistical points, but also community feedback if changes are going to be happening. So even though it sucks, some of this stuff has already been dealt with for a month. Even by comparison, the overhaul that players already think about when they think about major changes to a game, World War II's overhaul took 2 months after Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield were removed from their positions. Now again, I'm not saying that I agree with this. I'm not saying that things shouldn't have gotten this far deep to begin with, where they have this problem in the first place, where some things should have been considered differently from the beginning, but I just think that information is important to know. Trust me, I am all 100% with you that I'm bummed out by seeing that some of these changes aren't going to be made, by seeing that it doesn't look like there's an overhaul, but there's some context there that I think, while still a bummer, still gives a little context to the situation. But ultimately, that is where we're at here with this one. Again, I want to keep you guys in the know and in the loop with things you can expect here coming up out of this, but let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys are looking forward to here out of the Season 1 update? Anything that you would change in particular? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. And of course, anything relating to Season 1, we have early access content going up here in just a few short days here, so stay here on the channel if you're interested in any of that. But if you're interested in getting connected a little further, Twitter and Instagram are the best places to do so. Those links are down there in the description below. Practically live on both those. So that said, check them out if you guys are interested. But with all that said and out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.